lot. But subsequently had so many radios in the truck it got ridiculous. I took it out and I never put it back in again. I'd still have a D-Star radio at home, but D-Star's pretty good. It's been around for a good long while. Got its ups and got its downs. So we'll talk a little about D-Star. Jerry is passing out a list of D-Star repeaters in Texas, just so you have an idea who some of these people are. Okay, next. Okay, this is kind of the game plan. What is it? What are the pieces that make up a D-Star system, the different modes, the 4 aces of D-Star? That's my term, that's not ICOM's term, but there are 4 registers or 4 memories that are key to make D-Star work, and that's what I call the 4 aces. Some quick tidbits in dealing with the thing, some programming strategies, how to put this stuff into radio and figure out a way to make it easy to work when you want it, and talk about what some of the current radios are that are out there right now. Next. It's not... Maybe you've seen this before. This is just cute. That's the classic of double talk, isn't it? Well, hopefully I'm not going to go quite that far with this, but anyway, it's all in fun anyway. Okay, with D-Star, you do need to register. Now, you don't have to, but you need to. The difference being that if you have a D-Star radio and you want to go through a local D-Star repeater, you can do that without registering with D-Star or with ICOM. But if you want to go from that repeater to some other repeater or some other reflector, you have to be registered with them to make that happen. And there's several reasons for that. Their application procedure is not that bad. We'll talk about that again here in just a second. Well, no, actually, it's on this slide. Sorry. A lot of the local clubs that have D-Star repeaters will handle that registration for you. Some charge a fee, some don't. Most don't anymore. At one time they did. They rarely do anymore. But you don't have to go through there. You can go right straight out to the D-Star registration site and go right in directly that way and register as a new user. It's the standard stuff. You know, you give them your name and your horsepower and all that. When they come back with your registration, they will give you some information that you'll probably never use, but you want to hang on to it anyway just in case. One of those being an assigned IP address. Because you can do digital data through D-Star, and your D-Star radio actually then will have an IP address that will receive data and send data back through the repeater. So that's what that address is for. It's an assigned IP address for that. And that's the address if you're interested in going to that. You register and do your thing. Once you've registered and it's had time to settle and be taken care of, you can go back to another website and check it and see if you're okay. Okay, it's really not that hard. Sure. Okay, all right. What are the parts of what makes up a D-Star system? Okay, in the repeater portion, they call each section of it a module. I was fortunate enough to be with the Dallas Club at one time when they were setting up their D-Star repeater system. And we were working with the Denton people who already had a D-Star repeater set up. And we got to get in on it and actually see all these pieces go into a 19-inch rack and all that good stuff. And it's quite a system that goes with it. So anyway, it can work on 2 meters, which is called the C module, 70 centimeters, or the 440 megahertz area, called the B module, or 23 centimeters, 1.2 gigahertz, called the A module. Then there is a controller that controls and orchestrates everything to make sure everything goes where it's supposed to. And then there is a Linux computer that's attached to it that actually handles the internet connectivity to make it connect to the internet and other such places. So that's the basic repeater itself. Then the radio, of course, is standard handheld or mobile or base radio or whatever you have. I have an older ID51 handheld. The ID52A is the current one of this, and there's also an A+. ICOM tends to play games with the names a little bit, I think, and just add a little bit of cosmetic difference to them and sell it as a new model, perhaps. I'm not sure. Then there is a central database, and this is where the registration stuff comes into play. It's called the trust server provided by ICOM, that when you try to go from this repeater through that repeater to another repeater, it will verify that, yeah, you really are a verified user with D-Star, and it will let you go through. If you're not registered, it won't let you won't let it happen. And of course, with the repeater, you need an internet connection. It doesn't have to be a really fast internet connection, but it just needs to be solid. Or you can use a 10 gigahertz link, which has been done with a lot of places. Do a microwave link to give it internet connectivity. And that's part of the equipment that the ICOM provides to make that happen if you need to do that. Next. And that's what it looks like as it's laid out. They have the 70 centimeter modules on the bottom. 2 meters, the second from the bottom. 1.2 gigahertz data and 1.2 gigahertz voice, which are separate. And there's a reason for that. And then the controller module at the very top, and then our computer over on the side, which is hooked to the internet, which passes all the stuff back and forth through it. And that's what one of the modules looks like, just pretty little case. Of course, there's some connectors on the back as well to make all this happen. Okay, of course, most of the, even with the DMR radios, they're going to work on standard FM that we've always used forever and a day. But then they also do the digital voice thing. D-Star is one of those interesting things when you get almost to the end of the tether, you get the Donald Duck effect. Kind of a strange thing, and then it'll drop. As opposed to some other digital modes that'll go out so far, when they lose it, boom, just nothing. But D-Star, you'll get the Donald Duck sound, and then it'll drop after it gets out of past its limit. It does have error correcting built in. Since it's sending the stuff digitally back and forth, it can do a certain amount of error correction. The digital data allows us to send data back and forth. They were one of the early ones to start working on this and make this work in amateur radio, primarily for emergency use. The idea was, if we need to send emergency data between someplace and a hospital, for example, the data needs to be critically accurate. So by sending it digitally, we have less of a chance for making an error with it, and it will come through and be printed out, probably, most likely. Anyway, we can send digital data. For the 2 meter and the 70 centimeter links, it's 1,200 bits per second. Now, I don't know how many of you remember modems back in the old days. 1,200 bit modem was a swinging modem, then went to 2,400, and then finally went to 5,400 and all that good stuff. That was slow. That really was slow. So it's slow, but it's accurate, and it works. And when we go up to the 23 centimeter, then we go up to 128 kbits. Anybody remember what that was called back in the internet world days, back about, 2000 or so? When we first went to DSL. DSL was 128 kbits locked in. Wow, digital subscriber line. Anyways, that speed. It's not blazing internet speed, but it's good for passing data back and forth. And of course, it has built-in error correction, so if you have a halfway decent connection, it will be accurate. Whatever goes in will come out correctly. Little pixie dust. That's what makes it work. Okay, the four aces. This is probably, in my mind, is the most critical thing about working with D-Star. You know, these four memory locations, or four registers, if you want to call them that, which really control what's going on and handle the routing of everything that's going to happen. You can pre-program those into the radio so you can call them up when you want. You can, you know, fat finger it if you want to, do it on the fly. Many of the D-Star radios have what they call a one-touch feature. What the one-touch feature is if I've made a connection through my radio, through the Plano repeater, through a reflector in London, to some dude that's out there on a fishing boat, and I think I may want to talk to him again someday, I have a one-touch button. I can hit that, and it will save all that routing information into a memory location. If I've done that, then I want to connect with him again, I can just hit that one button, and it will take care of it automatically and reroute me and put all that stuff in place, which is pretty cool if you find something like that. Or many of the radios, especially the newer ones that have huge memories in them, will have various lists, and you can pick and choose from the list and put things into your radio to make it work. Now, what are the four memories? Okay, here we go. Here are the big directions. Look something like that. Pick a direction. Okay, four of them. First one is my call. My call sign is my call sign. You know, either for anywhere from 3 to 6 characters total. And it is what it is. When you first to power on the radio, it will ask for your call sign. And you enter that from the keyboard. Or if you're doing it with a programming software, of course, you can put it in from there. The second one is called your call. That's the place that you want to go to, someone that you would like to talk with or to. That could be an individual person somewhere. And with D-Star, you can actually say, I want to talk to this call sign. And it will try to route that call through the different repeaters to the last known location of that call sign. So it's pretty specific in that. If I'm not going to a specific something, then I pad that with a dummy entry called CQ. That just says I'm going to talk to whoever's out there, basically. But it has to be filled. It can't be blank. And so that's the reason for the CQ. Then the third one is the repeater 1. That's the local repeater that I want to talk to, like K5PRK, which is the Plano D-Star repeater. Repeater 2 is called the gateway computer. We're really talking about repeater. We're really not talking about the repeater. We're talking about the computer that's attached to it. That's going to provide the gateway to the internet so I can go out somewhere else. So when I'm calling, I have my call sign. I'm telling you where I want it to go to. I want to talk to a specific repeater, repeater 1, and I want to send it out through its computer that's hooked to it to go out to the rest of the world and make that connection for me. So those are the 4 key pieces that I've got to have. Now, it's not as complicated as it sounds from that level, but it's just things you just have to remember. That's really all I can say. There's some specifics we'll talk about now, and then we'll go on from there. Just take it in stride. It's all going to be okay. Whoops, back up one. There we go. When we put this information in those 4 registers, they have to be 8 characters total, except for my call and the CQ thing. Everything else has to be a total of 8 characters. This is just an ICOM requirement. If I don't have enough to fill that, then I pad it with spaces. So as I've shown in my little examples here, in the your call entry, if I wanted to connect to reflector number 1 on the A module, and I want to link it, which is what the L stands for, it would go just like that. But you notice that is 8 characters total, so I don't need any padding. I don't need any spaces in that. I can use the I indicator, which says information. I can put the I in, key the radio, and the repeater will come back and tell me who it is, where it is, or whatever they've programmed into it that they want me to know about, their repeater. But it has to be padded like that. So I'm saying for the K5PRK repeater __I can get it that way. And then I'm going to go to repeater 1. If I want to go to K5PRK, again, I'm just using Plano's repeater to their B module. I have to put 2 spaces in there, which is what those 2 underscores mean. And I'm going to use their gateway as well. So again, it's K5PRK _ or space, and the letter G. So I've got 8 characters total in all of those entries, except for my call and then when I go to the CQ. We okay so far? Okay?
Does it matter where the spaces are?
Yes.
If you had one where you had two spaces before, like before the B, you had another one you had one space before an L,
Well,
could you make it space B space?
oh, no. No, there's certain letters have to be in certain positions as well.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's fussy.
yeah. It's picky about it. It wants it its way.
Just checking.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay, as I said, actually I was just using that as an illustration with the I. That really wasn't correct. This is correct. If I want to do an E, which is an echo chest, I can put this thing, the E in there and send it to the repeater. Say, K5CRX, this is an echo test, unkey, and it will repeat back to me whatever it was I just said if everything's working correctly. Likewise, if I wanted to give me the information on who it is, do the I. L is if I want to link to someplace else, to another repeater or to another reflector. And then U is to unlink it once I get through. But to make it happen, I've got to put 7 spaces before the letter. So pad it out. Everything gets padded except for my call and the CQ. Okay? So let's take an example for this thing. I'm going to go through the Plano repeater. I'm going to use their B module, which will be their 23 centimeter, 440 megahertz module. So for my call, it's going to be K5CRX. Your call, I want to go to a reflector 1. Reflectors are REF and then a 3-digit number. I think there are about 300 reflectors right now. I'm not sure worldwide. There's whatever that number is. But anyway, so REF001, B means the B module of that reflector. Most reflectors, however, are only C, but there's some that have A, B, and C. Not that it matters, but you need to know which one you're using. And let's see, I think I gave you no, I didn't give you a list of reflectors. I gave you a list of repeaters. I'll give you a website where you can get that information later. Anyway, so there I've got the reflector number going through module B, and the L means I want a link. That L has to be in that position for the link. That tells it what I want to do. I'm going to go through K5PRK space B using their gateway computer K5PRK space G. Once I key down, turn it loose, then if it works, the repeater will come back and say, repeater linked in voice. Some more fancy ones will say link to whatever you linked it to, but that depends on what status the software is for a particular repeater. And at that point, you're linked to that. You go ahead and do whatever you want to do. When you get finished, then you need to unlink it by sending 7 spaces and a U to unlink it. Okay. To unlink it, like we said here, so I'm sending my call. Every time I'm going to send those same 4 registers. So I'm going to send my call. I'm going to send 7 spaces U to unlink it, tell it which repeater, which gateway, and when it finishes, it will say repeater unlinked and let me know that it dropped the link. Okay. In Japan in particular, and some of the European countries, they use these areas and zones and other things. We don't generally use that in the United States. We just don't worry about it. They like to be a little more organized than we are. We generally just kind of ignore all that. So just tell you that just because. The difference between a repeater and a reflector. A repeater is an RF device. That's that stack that we showed in the beginning with all those different modules. It's RF. However, a reflector is just a computer someplace. And so if I want to connect through a reflector, I would go through the local repeater to that reflector, and there may be 25 or 100 people connected to that reflector, all listening at the same time. And if I want to talk, if somebody wants to talk, maybe I just send out, hey, is there anybody there listening in some place in England? And somebody comes back in their English brogue and say, yeah, we're here, what's up? And we carry on a conversation that way. Pardon? What's cracking? Yeah. You got to watch some of the lingo can get us in trouble, needless to say. It's still fairly active. It's not as active, I don't think, as it was at one time, but it's still there. Yes, it is still out there. It still works. The Plano repeater, unfortunately, is frustrating to me. They don't maintain it very well. At one time, they really did. I don't know how many of you know Fred W5 ERD, WD5 ERD, Fred Varian. Was Mr. ICOM. Matter of fact, he was the chief ICOM tech support guy for the U.S. for a long time. I mean, he was Mr. ICOM, literally, and he was the one who got that repeater put in for them because he had the connections, and it was top notch and always connected. Lately, I've not been able to connect anywhere with it. I can talk to it, I can get an echo test out of it, but that's all I've been able to do with it. Okay, operating technique is important. Just like that. Okay. Next. Go ahead, next. That's okay. Okay. Woo. Okay. Programming this thing, we want to tell it what mode we're going to use, which in most cases is going to be digital voice. But it could be digital data if we wanted to do digital data. In most cases, we're doing digital voice. We have to register with the D-Star system. We talked about that in the beginning. And then when you're ready to operate, like always in amateur radio, you listen first, kind of see what's going on. You know, it's just not a good process to jump in the middle of somebody else's conversation, start talking when they're already talking, or trying to interfere with somebody's conversation. So just be nice. Kerchunking, you know, generally we say we shouldn't be kerchunking the repeater. You know what kerchunking is, right? Just keying down, turn it loose, and see if it responds. Technically, if we do that, we should give our call sign because we did transmit, right? Most of us don't. With D-Star, you don't have to do that. Every time you key down, it's going to transmit your call sign. So you don't have to. You can if you want to. Most people still do. Even during the conversation with somebody, most of us at the 10-minute intervals or so will identify this K5CRX for ID just because that's what we're accustomed to doing. And that's perfectly fine. But we want to be nice about that, and be careful when we kerchunk and listening first, see what's going on. Now, kerchunking is also good if you just want to register yourself on something that's going on. For example, if somebody has already connected the Plano repeater, D-Star repeater, to a reflector in Australia, and there's a conversation in process, and I'm listening to all of that, and I'd kind of like them to know that I'm there listening. When there's a break in the conversation, I can just kerchunk it. That registers my call sign, and they see my call sign pop up. And they can either say, hey, I see K5CRX, are you doing it? And call me in, or they can ignore me, whichever. But at least I've let them know that I'm there. And if they don't acknowledge me and I want to get in, then when there's a break, I can announce my call sign by voice and say, hey, I'm here, have a question, or want to join the conversation, or whatever's going on with them. The linking and unlinking, again, that's where the listening comes in. When you listen first, if somebody already has a link established, they're talking, they obviously don't want you to unlink it in the middle of their conversation so you can link to somebody else. So the correct procedure is to listen first before you link to, and if there's nothing going on, you announce your call sign and say, I'm going to link to another reflector unless somebody's using this. Nobody says anything, then you go ahead and send the link command. And likewise, unlink when you finish.
Is there a way to know when you're listening if it's linked somewhere else, or if someone linked and is listening to Australia and didn't unlink?
Yeah, you can use the I command, and it will tell you if it's linked. Mm-hmm. Anyway, when you get through, you generally want to unlink it so somebody else can use it for whatever they want. Now, most repeaters have a 30-minute timeout. If they don't see any local activity on that repeater for 30 minutes, they will automatically disconnect the link. That's the generally accepted time frame for those repeaters. And this one is really critical when you're talking. Once you can have established the link by sending the reflector command or whatever it is you need, you've got to go back in and change your call to CQ, CQ, CQ. If you don't do that, and you leave it there on the command to link, and you key again, it's going to try to link it again. It's going to come back and say, repeater already linked, before you can talk. So yeah, it's just one of those little crazy quirks of D-Star. And you've got to remember to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with that. Of course, once you've established it, you put CQ, 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 you're there till you finish, till you unlink. The one-touch capture thing, again, that's that one-touch button. If your radio has that, once the link is established with Joe Blow down in Australia, you hit that one-touch button and it will save the connections necessary. So the next time you hit the button, it'll put the right stuff in all the registers and establish the connection for you. Programming all this stuff in there. There's a lot of stuff out there. When we're programming in, there's some things we have to program in just like we would for FM radio. We got to have the frequency and the offset for the repeater. Generally speaking, we don't need tones. Some people will put in tones, some repeaters will put in tones, but you don't need tones as such. But those are the two things. Then you'll need to know the mode that you're going to use is going to be digital voice or digital data. And then the repeater's information, what their call sign is going to be, the gateway information, all that stuff that has to go in. I like to do it with software, hook a cable over the computer, and just type it in. It's so much simpler to do that than do it by finger bone. But you can do it on the fly if you want to. You have in most of these radios, they will have a repeater list. They will have like this radio will let me put in 6 my calls. So my wife is also registered with D-Star, and I have her in there so I can flip back and forth between those two if I needed to. So you can have up to 6 of my calls in there. And then you have a separate list for places you want to call to, like reflectors or repeaters or whatever. And by flipping back and forth on the buttons, you can select these on the fly. It's a pain in the backside, but you can do it. Or you can load a limited list, have it all set up, and you just go to position number 1, and that's what I do. I do the chicken method. And then there's some extended lists that you can actually download from several of the different repeater book sites where you can, it will help you put the stuff in. Of course, the one-touch button is always there. I'll show you an example of how I do it. I'm not saying my way's right, but it's the way I do it. This is how I do it. Okay, I'm using the Park repeater again, K5PRK, plain old repeater. My CQ, as you can see across there, the repeater's frequency is at 451.575, and it's a plus offset. I'm using digital voice, K5, and the name there is what shows up on my screen, so I know what I'm selecting when I'm going. That's for my benefit. That has nothing to do with the transmission. When I want to send out the CQ, that's in that position. And it's going to send to repeater 1, K5PRK space B, and repeater 2, K5PRK space G. So that's what I'm talking. But first of all, I want to see if anybody's on the repeater. So I turn on the radio, I don't hear anything, and I go to position 1, which has 7 spaces and the letter I. And I just key it once. The repeater comes back and tells me who it is, if it's connected to anything or not. Okay, fine. Now let me see if I'm working. Go down one more to E, key down and say this is K5CRX doing an echo check, turn it loose, and it should say that back to me. I know I'm good. Then if I wanted to go to reflector number 1, I'd go down to position 4, PRK 001 Charlie. Key one time, it will connect me to that and come back and say repeater connected. Or link rather, and then I switch back up to number 0 to the CQ in order to talk. And I leave it there until I get through, then I come back and unlink. So it's kind of a manual process. They've never automated that. This is still the operating procedure for it. It's kind of a pain. Then same thing with the Dallas repeater there. And so what I've basically done, instead of making all 99 commonly used reflectors available, I'd have to put 99 entries in there. That's too much. I just picked some that I know that are fairly popular. Reflectors 1, 3, and 6 are 3 of the real popular ones. Sure. Well, why would anybody want to do that? Now, that's a valid question. It really is. It is. Well, it is. And perhaps that's one of the reasons D-Star is not as popular as it once was, because it's a little more difficult. And you've got to have an ICOM or Kenwood radio. Now, when I say R, all the main radios are ICOM. There is, to my knowledge, there is only one other manufacturer making a D-Star radio, and it's Kenwood, and it's a handheld. This is a D74. D75 is the current model of this particular radio. And this sucker is not cheap. Thank you. It is not cheap. It's called Kenwood. I believe the 75 starts at about $675. Yeah, it's not cheap. They're good radios. A good radio. And that particular one also is tri-band. It has the 222 megahertz band in it. Yep. Yeah, the ICOM's proud of their stuff. Generally speaking, the 51, 52 series, these little handheld guys, generally right now are still running right at $500 for them. I guess their advantage was that they got on board early. They were one of the early implementers for this. It's interesting to me too. I noticed they're not pushing it now. Yaesu is pushing the daylights out of Wires X and all their equipment. ICOM is not pushing the D-Star anymore. It's there, but they're not pushing it. And they still have a couple radios, but D-Star is optional, where you can add on a D-Star module.
And is this part of the reason why McKinney Club doesn't have a D-Star, that there's not that much interest?
No. This is opinion. This is pure opinion, my opinion. The reason we don't have a D-Star radio is the dollars. That big thing I showed in the beginning with all those modules in there, going back to about 2015, that was $10,000.
Bob, you might mention what the club did when you were comm director, where we did the poll. We had the vote, presentations on each, on FM, AM, CW, digital modes. You kind of like, big education. Okay, now we're looking at digital. We want to update. What do people want? And so we had some demos. And you took a vote. And
Yep.
you recall the ranking? I think Yaesu came out, the Fusion,
Yeah, Fusion, just because of the ease of use.
but just the concept of Fusion.
Yeah, it seemed to be the preferred one, largely because of cost. And then the complexity issue was a factor. Yeah, the Wires X is so much easier to use than this, and Yaesu's got that down well, I think. I'm a strong proponent of Wires X, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. Yeah, I had forgotten about that, Ron. But yeah, we did do that. We did some surveys and other things, and tried to check it out, kind of see what people wanted. And when we talk about Wires X, we'll talk about one of the reasons that we pull Wires X and the way we can set the repeaters up work well for what we're doing. D-Star does not. D-Star doesn't give us the options that Wires X does.
When you did the poll, not everybody had even heard of all of them.
That's true. That's true. D-Star was still in its infancy, really. Yeah, and at that point, Yaesu had a thing they call Wires, not Wires X, just Wires, and it was a special mode, but it would talk between Yaesu radios to allow radio-to-radio communications and data exchange. And it used to be a pain in the fingers because if the radio had the wires turned on, every time you keyed it, it would put out a beep. And it would drive the repeaters crazy. And people listening to it, you say, turn off your wires. It was just a button. You push a button, it would turn it off. But yeah. Okay, so back to the matter at hand. What basically I gave you a list of the Texas D-Star repeaters. There are several in this area that you can mostly hit. One of the most famous ones is K5TIT. They're on one of the big skyscrapers in downtown Dallas, so their antennas have some height. And they're good, and they maintain their stuff well. They were one of the premier D-Star units to get things started in Texas way back when. Fred Varian was part of that. Oh goodness, what was the guy's name? Lives up in Melissa, has the horses and all that. Was in with Red Cross. You remember that? We had all that fiasco with the Red Cross and their equipment. What was that guy's name? Anyway, one of our members was big in there. Several, about 5 or 6 key players that were really the ones who got D-Star into Texas way back when, and that's K5TRT. So they've been there for a long, long time. One of the other great things of K5TIT, you go to their website, they have some fabulous videos, some training materials out there that will tell you a lot more than I can tell you here. They're well done. So anyway, I have like 6 or 8 of the different repeaters in my D-Star radios, and a half dozen or so of the reflectors that I know that I like. There's a couple that I avoid. There's one in Ireland, a reflector in Ireland, and they talk Gaelic. And when they talk Gaelic, man, they talk Gaelic. Let me tell you, in order to unlink, there has to be a break in the conversation. And those are few and far between in Gaelic. So once you get that sucker linked, sometimes you just got to wait for the repeater to time out before you can get out of it. And of course, you'll find some in Germany that speak German, but most of them around the world will speak English anyway. But it is a good system. It works. It's been around for a long time. Okay, so we tinker with it. You can make it work. Okay. Some of the radios that's out there now. Okay. Whoops. Got your I'm seeing part of your control mechanism there. There we go. The ID52A is the current handheld. 5100A is an old radio. Well, the A is a slightly updated version of 5100, but it's an old radio. It's been around for a long, long time. It's still popular. I still have one. That was what I ran mobile for years. The IC7100 is a multi-band radio. It's kind of a dual radio, but it's been around for a long, long time. But it's a fantastic radio. For base radios, they have 2 new ones, the IC705 and 905 for Fairview. The 9700 is big bucks. It's a fancy radio, but boy, is it expensive. There's some other options. A DV dongle will let you get on the D-Star with a computer, no radio at all. The DVAP dongle is an access point dongle, which will allow you to use your handheld and talk to it, which is like a hotspot, basically. And then, of course, the Kenwood DH75. Talking about those specifically, the new and improved version of all of them. Oops. There we go. Same people did turbo and tabulator, no doubt about it. I need a radio that does all of that, you know? No, I probably don't. Anyway, okay. The 52A and plus goes to handheld VHF, UHF. All of these will do it the standard FM, like we always do with the tones and everything. And of course, it does also D-Star. Built-in GPS. They use DPRS instead of APRS, but it's their version of APRS. It's totally compatible with the APRS recording system. The works as it always would. As the DR mode, digital repeater mode, is where they have a list of repeaters that you can load in there, and you can actually select one on the fly. That's all the DR mode boils down to. Okay, this IC705 is a new one. It's a portable one, 5 to 10 watts, as you can see. This is kind of an all-mode, dual radio. It also does HF and all that. You know, it's field portable and all that good stuff. But it's a cute little radio. I've not had any experience with these new ones. I couldn't afford it anyway. 5100 AD now, which has been around for a long time. It's a fantastic radio. It really works well. VHF, UHF, FM, D-Star, built-in GPS. If you have the control head where up near the windshield where you can see the satellites, it has the built-in GPS. Works great. Put the control head down low, it can't see the satellites, but that's just because. Okay, 905 also includes microwave. Now you get a 10 gigahertz module on the thing. Do all kinds of crazy stuff with that if you want to do that. Especially geared for doing digital data, the DD mode, digital data mode. And it's up to 10 watts on that one. And then this is the old standby. This has the slope panel on the base unit part of it. This is what I use as a base at home for D-Star. And it's been around a long time. It does all mode, does HF, does any mode you want. Interesting thing with D-Star, you can do different kinds of things with it. It'll do an FM type. I'm sorry. On HF, you can actually do D-Star and let it do the encoding on HF. You can, of course, do simplex with it. But anyway, this radio will let you do anything you want to do. That's the bottom line. And this guy is the Big Bucks radio. It's a special mode. It also has the satellite mode in it where it's got special operations for tracking satellites built into it. It's a very expensive radio. I'm trying to remember how much that thing is. Anybody knows? I don't know. I think it's. I want to think it's like $3,000, but that may be overkill. It's a very expensive radio. That's the big thing. Okay. And then there's the little Kenwood 75, the current one. It is a tri-band. It does include the 1.25 meter band, 222 megahertz. And of course, has all the standard stuff that you'd expect built into it. It's $2,000 for the 9700. Okay. The DV dongle and DVAP dongle, two separate units. You notice that the DVAP has the little antenna on it because it works through RF. The other one is just a little unit that hooks to your computer. And I don't know if you can read that. You probably don't want to. The DV dongle basically lets you hook it to your Mac or your PC or your Linux box. And it has the built-in special voice encoder that ICOM uses. By the way, ICOM is the unit that paired up with the Japan Radio League, JAL, Japan Amateur Radio League. They're the ones who actually have the license for D-Star. But for whatever reason, they and ICOM paired up to make all this work. But they chose this AMBE, which is a company specifier type of encoder-decoder chip. I don't know what it sells for today, but when I was dealing with D-Star a lot, maybe 10 years ago, it was selling for about $20 a copy. And a lot of the manufacturers hesitated because of being married to that particular manufacturer, that particular chip. They just didn't want to take on that extra expense. Hence, they just didn't want to do it. And they did. But anyway, the DV dongle does have that chip built in, so it's native in speaking the format that D-Star wants to speak. With it and with the software that it has, you have a full-blown D-Star station running through a local computer. That's really all it boils down to. It works really well. And there's a link to it, which is still a good link. Doesn't take much for a computer to run it. You know, basically your basic horsepower computer and a USB 2 port will work fine. And then the DVAP has the little antenna on it. It does the same thing as the previous one, except instead of talking through a mic and a speaker on your computer, you can use a handheld and talk to it through your handheld. So it makes it feel more like it's real radio, I guess is what it boils down to. Okay. DRATS is another interesting thing that's come out. This is a software thing. It's just D-Star spelled backward. But anyway, free platform. You download the software, and it lets you get on D-Star again with just using your computer. Strictly all done with software. Reflectors are their version of reflectors that work with their system, and there's a link for it. If you want to pursue that, you can. Okay. Always ready.
Lone Star Advisor and a subscriber.
Lone Star Emergency, this is Steve. Is there an emergency in your vehicle?
Oh my God. I've locked myself in my car and the keys are on the outside.
Ma'am,
Oh my God.
ma'am, I need you to calm down.
Okay, it's just the windows are rolled up and I'm starting to sweat. My keys are on the outside.
Now, your keys are on the outside of the vehicle?
Yes, oh my God.
Now, does your car have automatic locks or?
Yes.
Here's what I need you to do. Take hold of the inside of your door handle there. Are you doing this? The shiny thing. Grab the shiny thing.
Okay, I've got it.
Okay, now give that a tug.
Okay.
Did it open?
Yes, oh my God, thank you.
Okay, now what's that noise?
Oh, that's my door alarm.
Yeah, but that only happens if the keys are in the ignition, hon.
Oh my God. You know what?
Keys are actually in your ignition.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Lobstar.
That's why we're here. Do you need anything?
Lone Star, always on, because you're always blonde.
Anyway, there are a lot of good sources out there, which these are some of them if you're interested. The places you can get various information. List of the repeaters, list of the reflectors, list of who all's logged in, and all that good stuff that goes with it. I really like these little books, the little nifty guides as they're called. This is the third edition of this book, and it's 20, I think it's 20, let's see, originally 2012, now it's third edition, looking for publication. I think it's 2016. Anyway, it hasn't changed that much is my point. So anyway, these are good little books. And of course, they make these for just about anything that you have out there, and they're just good little operating guides. I like that particular one. Okay, let's see, another list of that, next. Questions? You can be there and report on the aircraft striking 4 houses. And hope you're not in one of those 4 houses. Yeah.
I think I know the answer to So I've got a buddy that lives in Indianapolis that wanted me to get on the D-Star. He bought an ICOM radio. He's a fairly new operator. We got another buddy that's up in Chicago that's on it. Can I do a 3-way link on that? Notice, can I, from here, if I have all the right setup and everything, go in and talk to the guy in Indy and bring the other guy in?
Yeah, should be able to.
He can do it through his computer or whatever, right?
What does he have?
Well, they each have D-Star capability. I just want to know, can we do it with all 3 of us together at the same time on a comms?
I know if you get on the same reflector, you could do that.
Chicago, one's in Indianapolis, one's
Yeah. The easy way would be just to all agree we're going to go to reflector 1C or whatever, pick one you like, and all link to that one. And the only thing is, of course, everybody else is hearing it now. Now you can go directly from your radio to their radio, but I'm not aware that you can go to 2 radios. I don't know that there's a mechanism to do that directly, no. But the reflector would be the easy way to go.